What's up, y'all? Gotta do a Chuck part 2 story. Um, I worked with that guy for quite a few years right out of high school, and he definitely had an influence on part of my personality. I mean, hell, the jacket I'm wearing right now was given to me by Chuck when I was probably 20 years old, 46 now. Still hold on to it, still love it. Um, Before I moved to Phoenix, Chuck and I had moments where we hate each other, had moments where we love each other. We were talking about my grandfather, when I was younger, would tell me stories about Battle of the Bulge. Fortunately, I was so young when he told me about it, I don't remember a lot of what he said other than it was horrible. But I told Chuck that, I said, man, in high school I wrote this poem about war, and so I'll bring it to you. I'll read it to you tomorrow. I'll bring it from home. So I came the next day and I read this poem to him. He goes, "You clearly been around people who've been in war. I mean, you sounds like you understand it." I mean, just trying to put myself out there, just trying to think of what it would be like in that situation, which I can't picture it at all. The more I listen to YouTube stories about stuff that guys have gone through, I'm just like, God, I almost got into a fight in a hotel parking lot. Woo. Yeah, these guys are getting shot at, hiding behind tanks and stuff. I mean, but so I read this poem to Chuck and we talk about it. He said, "I'll bring you one tomorrow." Now, I don't want to mess this up, okay? So I'm going to read it. This is what he read to me. He said, "I have never read this to anybody. I mean, that was, when he said something like that, he meant it. He said, I've read this to my wife, and that's it. I need you to understand something. The day I die and they put me in the ground, you have to make sure this is read." Okay, all right. And this is what he says. "Please, my friends, you, and you, raise your glass to 32 brave boys of blue. They lived to love, they loved to live, but they gave their all anyone could give. They were young and full of spite, but gave their all to make our world right. When my life is over, my mind be free as soon as it will be. I hope someone will raise a glass with you to 33 boys of blue." We sat there in the shop, quiet. Now I'm trying to take in everything that he's not saying, because it's all he did. He just read that and told me that whenever he dies, I have to make sure it's read. Now, fortunately, at his funeral, he knew his time was coming, and he made sure Judith knew to have that for everybody to read. So I'm not breaking my word of sharing it with everybody. Now, 5 minutes into this story, just getting to this point. Chuck and his wife were, Bobby, they were getting divorced. Chuck was staying in camper a few miles away. He had hernia. He asked me, hey man, I'm going to have surgery on Friday. Do you mind picking me up from the hospital, taking me home, sitting with me for a couple of days, and, I should be good to go by Monday. Shouldn't need any help. I'm like, yeah, I'll take care of you. So that morning, I show up to the hospital, and I see him before surgery. He's sitting there, all just Chuck, and they roll him back, and they tell me it's going to be a few hours. It's okay. Felt like I had time to run back to the antique store. Gary had a truck coming in, so we got some stuff unloaded real quick, and I was like, I'm going to go back to the hospital. Get back to the hospital, and when I get in, these ladies are like, you're with Mr. Highsmith, right? Yeah. They need you upstairs in recovery. Okay, something wrong? They need you upstairs in recovery. I'm like, okay. So go upstairs, go to the elevator, go up to recovery, walk in. They're like, you're with Mr. Highsmith. Yes. Okay, so was he ever in war? Yeah, he was in Vietnam. Why, what's up? And I can see him from across the room. And he's got this, like, almost looks like a cone of shame for a dog, but I guess it's to just kind of breathe oxygen into their face. And I can see him, and I'm like, it looks like my dad. After they had him on the stretcher, and he was, looks like him. It was like a year after that happened. And so I'm like, oh man, that's real. She goes, listen. And I'm like, back to it. Because really, I kind of like checked out. She goes, Mr. Highsmith is having a flashback. And we're thinking that somebody who is familiar with him can go over there and talk to him and get him to come back. Okay. I'll give it a shot. I go over there, and I'm looking at him on his table, or his bed, gurney. Sorry. He's staring up at the sky. Just lay back, staring up, kind of have him at an angle. So, I mean, he's just staring, I'm standing over him, and I'm looking at him like, Chuck, hey, Chuck. And he's going, so-and-so's hurt, so-and-so's dead, so-and-so's dead. We need air support. We need artillery. And I mean, he is just going at it. That man was back in that moment. In his mind, he was every bit 100%. There's no way you could have convinced him he wasn't there. Scariest shit I'd ever seen. I'd heard about people having flashbacks, but I never witnessed it. And that man was back. And I nudged him. Chuck! And he kind of jolted in his pupils, like they just relaxed. And he goes, hey, boy. Hey, you okay? Doing all right? Yeah, I'm good. So-and-so's hurt. And he just goes right back into it. I'm like, I don't even know what to do. And I back away from the table. I'm freaking out because I have never, ever experienced anything like this. It was freaky. I tell a nurse I gotta go. I don't know what to tell you. I chickened out. I didn't know what to do. I went and called Judith. Judith, hey, listen to this. Judith goes, has Chuck ever told you what happened to him? What are you talking about? She's like, there was a particular night. Has he ever told you about this particular night? No, not yet. No, he never. No, I know that Chuck, Gary's brother, went through some shit at some point in time. She goes, he lost 32 of his men in one ambush attack. He was the only person who walked away. Those were his boys. He was their commanding officer. And I was like, oh, that makes that poem make a lot more sense now. I was never in the military. I didn't understand it quite till that moment. That holy shit, Chuck had the weight of every one of those boys on his shoulder. Ever since that night. So, about an hour later, they came to me and said, "Hey, we've got him down in a room. He's doing a lot better. You know, we just had to get him woke up. He's out of it now." I'm like, okay. My little brother and I go in there, and I walk in. I'm trying to be cool because I'm like, you just scared the shit out of me, and I ain't never seen anything like that in my life, and I don't even know how to look at you anymore. I don't, because you go to work with somebody for years, day in, day out, and you're always like talking shit, and then suddenly you realize, oh, that, yeah, he could mess me up really bad. It's the acknowledgement of it, of like, even though he is an old man and he would whip my ass all day, it's like this crippling thing because it's acknowledgement of, yeah, you're not the best. Sometimes you got to have that feeling. I'll look down and I'll say, "Hey, Chuck, man, Gary and I got that unloaded real well. We got it unpacked and it's all in the store." And he goes, hey, come here. And he did this. He wasn't wearing glasses. Normally he did. But he goes, come here. He goes, come here. Can you see my eye? Can you see my eye? Can you see that? And I'm like, really getting in there, like, yeah, is there something wrong with it? He goes, can you see it? I'm just making sure you can see it. I said, yes, Chuck, I can see it. What do you want me to see? He goes, I want you to tell me if you see anyone in there who gives a shit. I need you to check my testicles to make sure that both of them are still there. And I kind of laughed, and he goes, I'm not joking. I can't really look that way, and I just need you to look. And I'm like, oh, fuck, did we just go there? Golly. So they were both still there. In that moment, I had never been so damn afraid of somebody in my life. I have had my ass handed to me, but I have never been that afraid of someone in my life. And there wasn't any real reason to be afraid of him. I think it was just like, yeah, I got a stone cold killer. You put him in the right situation. Yep. He ain't gonna think about it. Good old Chuck. Now, I went and babysat him that weekend like we said we would. Eric came and picked me up. He came and picked me up. This is the craziest thing. This is how I always remember when this happened. I don't remember the date and I don't remember the year, but you're going to remember this. We had been watching the Daytona 500. Chuck and I had been, and Eric came and picked me up, and when we left, I was driving home, and Chuck calls. I'm not 5 minutes from his house, and he goes, hey, just want you to know Dale Earnhardt just crashed. It's pretty bad. All right, cool. Thanks, man. That was it. That was the day Dale Earnhardt died. Bam. So next Monday, Tuesday, maybe even been Wednesday, there's probably several days that he took off, But so I came into work. That whole time that I was at his house taking care of him, he never said a word. I think it's because he truly didn't know. Because when he was in that flashback, he was in the flashback. He was not here with me. No, he was there. But Judith talked to him. And so I came into work, sat down at the front desk, and he's sitting there. He goes, so, heard you saw something after my surgery. That I had that I went back there. I said, yeah. I would say that it was the scariest thing I'd ever seen in my life. He goes, I read you that poem, but I never told you anything because I don't like talking about it. But if you witnessed what you witnessed, then you deserve to at least know about it. And he sat there for about the next half hour and went into very graphic descriptions of what he went through that night. And I don't even... I almost got into a fight in the parking lot in a hotel in West Texas one time, and that's the glory of my life. Not even the glory. It's just a story that I have. But God, the stuff that I hear about, like Chuck, you didn't even know. Because, you go to work with him every day. That's just Chuck. It's just Chuck. But there's this really long story of how he gets to be the guy that gives you a jacket that you hold on to for 24 years. You never know when these somebodies are going to just kind of step in front of you. It's weird how we're all these moving little entities that we kind of just circle around each other, and then we got to go on at some point. That's how I feel like I was with Chuck, man. He one time said, I thought they broke the mold when they made me. But we were so similar. You'd think that we were like, there are times that, yes. There were a couple of times that people thought that Chuck was my grandfather, but there were a whole bunch of times that they thought that Chuck was my dad. And I tell you what, I know that I gave him shit for every time that they said that I just hell no. I tell you what, I'd be proud to call that man my dad any day of the week. He was a real man. And that's not saying anything against my dad. That's just me saying Chuck was a tough son of a bitch, And it seems like they're getting to be fewer and fewer out there to look up to. So when you find one, you better hold it and learn from it. Anyway, I can talk about Chuck all day. To Chuck. Have a good one, y'all.